Michael, please, look at me. If I offended you, tell me. If I changed, help me fix it. I gave you a child. I gave you my body, my sleep, my whole life, please.
The woman I married disappeared the day you gave birth and turned into this fat and ugly woman.
My people, come closer, because today's story, if marriage had customer care, this woman would be calling non-stop. Emma gave Michael her heart, her beauty, even a child. But the moment motherhood changed her body, somebody else started enjoying what belonged to her. Trust me, this story will make you wonder, get angry, and maybe check your partner's phone. Subscribe to Egovera Tales. Sit back and enjoy this unforgettable story.
Michael had always been captivated by his wife Emma's stunning beauty. Her long curly hair, piercing green eyes, and toned physique made her the epitome of perfection. She had a radiant smile that lit up any room, and her laugh was infectious, drawing people towards her like moth to a flame. Michael often marveled at how effortlessly she moved through life, her confidence radiating from every step. Their friends often joked that they were the ultimate power couple, an image of grace, elegance, and strength. Emma's charm was undeniable. She had a way of making everyone around her feel special. She was effortlessly fashionable, with a natural grace that made her seem untouchable. Michael loved her not just for her outer beauty, but for her inner strength and wisdom, which she showed in all the decisions she made, whether it was supporting him through tough times or helping others in their community. But life wasn't always as perfect as it appeared. Behind the smiles, Emma had always been under pressure to maintain her physical appearance. The constant comparison with other women, the societal expectations of how a perfect woman should look were often silently weighing on her. Still, she carried it with poise for Michael. She wanted to remain everything he had fallen in love with. Then came the news that changed everything. Emma was pregnant. Michael was overjoyed, unable to hide the smile that stretched across his face. He was going to become a father, something he had always dreamed about. And Emma, too, was thrilled, though there was an undeniable nervousness that came with the thoughts of her body changing. But it was all part of the process, and she embraced the pregnancy with grace. She glowed, radiant with the life they created together. She was beautiful. Her beauty, in fact, seemed to increase, and Michael found himself in awe of her once again. But as the due date approached, Michael began to notice subtle changes in Emma's appearance. Her skin, once vibrant and flawless, seemed to dull slightly. Her body began to swell, a natural consequence of carrying their child, but one that Michael hadn't fully prepared himself for. Her waistline expanded, and she began to struggle with the constant discomfort of carrying the extra weight. Michael didn't know it then, but his feelings were starting to shift, although he couldn't yet admit it to himself. After their daughter Sophia was born, Emma's body underwent an even more dramatic transformation. The stretch marks, the loose skin, the changes to her once toned physique, they all seemed so unfamiliar to Michael. Emma, who had been a vision of beauty and fitness, now felt like a stranger to him. Her hair, once thick and luscious, seemed limp and dull, and her eyes, which used to sparkle with mischief and joy, now seemed to lack their former light. She was still his wife, the mother of his child, but she didn't look the same. In the early days after Sophia's birth, Michael tried to convince himself that the changes were temporary, that with time Emma would return to her old self. He told himself that it was just a phase. But as the months wore on, he found himself feeling more and more disconnected from her. His growing discontent was not just physical, but emotional as well. The woman he had fallen in love with, the confident, radiant, beautiful woman, seemed so distant. Emma, for her part, was struggling with the changes as well. She had always been proud of her appearance, but now she felt trapped in a body that no longer felt like her own. She felt insecure and alienated from the person she once was, torn between the love for her child and the constant battle with her own self image. One afternoon, Michael came home from work to find Emma breastfeeding Sophia on the couch. It was a sight he had grown accustomed to, but this time it struck him differently. He felt a pang of disconnection, almost like an outsider in his own home. He hadn't anticipated that something as simple as breastfeeding would feel so foreign to him. Emma caught his gaze and smiled weakly, but Michael couldn't return the smile. Instead, a feeling of loneliness crept over him. He had been living in denial for months, hoping for the woman he once knew to return. But deep down, he knew she had changed, and so had he. He couldn't bring himself to tell her, but he was no longer the man he used to be. The emotional distance between them grew unbearable. Emma could feel it too. She had noticed the way Michael seemed to pull away from her. His eyes no longer lingered on her with the same admiration. His touch had become absent, and he had stopped initiating intimacy together. She could sense that something was wrong, but the reason remained unspoken. She couldn't understand why her husband had become so distant. The weight of these unsaid words and feelings began to suffocate their marriage. Emma, in her own silent suffering, began to question herself. If only I hadn't gotten pregnant, she thought to herself, staring at her reflection. If only I hadn't changed, maybe Michael would still love me like he used to. I would still be beautiful. But then, a voice inside her would remind her of Sophia, and she would feel a wave of guilt for even thinking such thoughts. Her child, the beautiful bundle of joy that had been created from their love, was everything to her. She couldn't regret her daughter, not even for a moment. In the meantime, Michael's guilt began to eat at him. He couldn't bring himself to talk to Emma about how he felt. Instead, he returned to an old flame, someone he had once been in love with, Sandra. They had bumped into each other in the supermarket one afternoon, and Sandra still had the same irresistible charm. She was radiant, her beauty seemingly untouched by time, and she instantly captivated Michael all over again. Sandra was everything Emma wasn't anymore: unapologetically beautiful, confident, and completely free of the physical changes that came with motherhood. Their initial reconnection was innocent enough, They exchanged pleasantries, reminisced about old time, and before long they had exchanged numbers. Michael found himself drawn to Sandra in a way he hadn't expected, and their conversations quickly turned flirtatious. He told himself that it was harmless, just some innocent fun, but deep down, he knew that he was beginning to fall into a dangerous pattern which he might never return from. The affair with Sandra grew more intense. Their late night calls, secret rendezvous, and passionate exchanges started to consume Michael. Emma had no idea. She was caught up in her own emotional turmoil, trying to hold their family together while dealing with her own self doubts. But as Michael's affair with Sandra deepened, Emma started noticing even more changes. Michael became more distant, preoccupied, and withdrawn. He no longer seemed to care about her feeling. When she tried to approach him or make an effort to rekindle their connection, he would pull away, almost as if she was invisible. Even when she made obvious advances in the bedroom, he rejected her. Emma's heart broke with each passing day, but she didn't know how to fix it. The love she had once shared with Michael seemed like a distant memory. She felt like a stranger in her own home. Her once vibrant and beautiful life felt like it was slipping through her fingers, and she wondered how long she could endure the loneliness. One fateful day, Emma, unable to bear the pain any longer, confided in her mother-in-law, Mrs. Carroll. Emma had always admired her for her wisdom and strength, and she hoped that her mother-in-law would have the answer she was so desperately looking for. Mrs. Carroll listened patiently as Emma poured her heart out. Then, with a calm and knowing smile, she said, "Emma, my dear, there's nothing that God cannot fix. You must pray about it. Lay it at His feet and let Him guide you. But don't just pray for Michael. Pray for yourself too, for your heart, and for strength. And remember, my dear, that sometimes we need to make an effort to rekindle the love we feel, even when it feels lost." She also suggested that Emma focus on her appearance, not for anyone else, but for herself. Dress attractively, feel good in your own skin, and let that confidence shine through you. It will make a big difference. Emma took her words to heart. She began to fast and pray, laying out her deep, fervent prayers for Michael, for their marriage, and for herself. Every morning, she would place notes of prayer in a closet, asking the Lord to restore her husband's heart and to help their marriage thrive once again. She didn't know what the future would hold, but she believed in the power of faith. Little did she know, that very week, something significant was about to happen. Michael, unaware of Emma's prayers, was planning to meet Sandra at a hotel, but Sandra had other plans. As they entered the hotel room, she drugged Michael, took his phone, ATM card, and some cash, leaving behind the notes revealing her true intentions. Sandra had never loved Michael. She had only wanted his money to fund her wedding to another man. Devastated, Michael returned home only to be faced with another shock. His ATM card and transaction phone were blocked, an act of divine intervention. Emma had felt an unusual prompting that day to block the cards. Unsure of why, but she trusted the feeling and obeyed. The next morning, Michael discovered Emma's prayer notes in the closet. Guilt flooded over him. He had seen the woman he once adored in a completely new light. It was time to confess, time to come clean. He sat down with Emma and through a flood of tears told her everything about Sandra, the affair, the hotel incident, and the reason behind this content. Emma, hot but understanding, forgave him. You've been through too much to let go now, she said, but I will work on myself for both of us. Determined, Emma registered at a gym, and with Michael's support, she began working out and losing the baby weight. Slowly but surely, the woman he had fallen in love with began to return. And as she regained her confidence, Michael realized just how much he had taken her for granted. Together, they rebuilt their love stronger than before. And with the guidance of Mrs. Carroll's wisdom, Emma and Michael forged a new chapter in their marriage, one filled with understanding, respect, and the unwavering belief that love, true love, could endure even in the hardest tests. And as Sophia grew, Emma and Michael became the family they had always dreamed of, one built on love, faith, and the beauty of second chances. The moral of this story is that love requires understanding, acceptance, and effort, especially when faced with change. Both physical and emotional transformations are part of life, and a lasting relationship is built not on perfection but on resilience, compassion, and mutual support. The story also highlights the importance of communication and confronting challenges head on rather than avoiding them.
Tell me one thing you learned from this story on the comments. And please don't forget to like and subscribe for more interesting stories.